Hey everybody, I'm Connor, that's Doug, and welcome to the 100th episode of your favorite school district podcast.
It's my favorite for sure, Connor, since this is episode 100. I did a little Googling and I found a few things that are turning 100 this year.
Well, that's not quite the same thing, but go ahead.
Well, thank you for your permission. 100 years ago, this is back in 1924, the spiral-bound notebook was invented. Kleenex were invented. Band-Aids, even though they were invented in 1920, they actually began mass production in 1924. The Breakfast of Champions Wheaties debuted as Washburn's Gold Medal Whole Wheat Flakes.
Yeah, it really rolls off the tongue. I don't know why they would change that.
I don't know. The next one's special to me. The first Macy's Turkey Day Parade debuted 100 years ago. That's pretty awesome. And this one's a little sad, Connor. The last grizzly bear was seen in California. They were hunted to extinction, and what was thought to be a California grizzly bear was spotted in Sequoia National Park for the very last time in 1924, and that's why the bear is the symbol on the state flag of California. And finally, just last year, Disney celebrated 100 years, and speaking of Disney, our very special guest today is our resident Disney expert, Lori Honig, the Assistant Director of Secondary Teaching and Lawyering.
Teaching and Lori. She's so good, they named it after her.
Teaching and learning. Lori, we're so happy to have you on the show. And we brought up Disney because we do like to talk about travel. And just to get us started before we talk about why you really showed up, we have heard you're quite the Disney fan. I was just wondering if you would tell us about the first time you went to Disneyland.
Great question. You know what? I couldn't even tell you about the first time I went to Disney. I've got pictures of me and my family going to Disney World when I was in elementary school, but I went to high school in Long Beach, California. That was 30 minutes away. My dad would take me and my friends as if it was the mall. So when it opened, he'd drop us off, love you, have fun, be safe, and he was out, and then he'd pick us up when it closed. So we did that often.
Wow.
You'd have to take out a second mortgage to do that now, I think.
That's for sure.
No kidding. It's extremely expensive. Yes. And Chad and I are annual pass holders, so we go almost every other month. But because I went to high school there, we also visit high school friends and make it kind of like a high school reunion thing.
So we love to hear about all your Disney adventures, but we did bring you here for a very special reason, and that's because we have some big changes this year to the way our middle and high school students are being graded. It's called standards-based instruction and grading, and we wanted to take some time to talk it through for parents and students who will be impacted. So in a nutshell, what are the differences parents and students will be seeing this year, Lori?
Yes, so there are top 5 differences for high school and middle school parents and students and what they'll be saying. One of the things is that all teachers grades 6 through 12 will be using a common 4-point grading scale for the assignments and assessments. And then also the letter grades will only be used for students' overall grades. There are no more pluses and minuses, and there are no more D grades. So the students will only get A, B, C, and F. And the current calculation for GPA will stay the same. So that's not a difference, but I wanted to highlight that too because a lot of people wonder about that. And then we have extra credit. So extra credit is no longer a thing.
Oh, boy.
Beginning this year. And then lastly, any of the students who want to improve their assessment score, they can. Usually when people think about retakes, they think about students who have only low scores on a test and can take a retake, but anyone could take a retake. So let's say a student earns a 3 out of 4 on their assessment and they're like, I want to do better. I want to earn a 4. We're going to let them do that because who's to try and stop someone who wants to improve their learning? So anyone can allow for or take a retake.
Well, that is a big change for our students and their parents, actually, and that's why so much work has gone into this over the past couple of years. We actually, Lori, have worked together on a couple of videos that have gone out to help parents get prepped for this big change that has come this year. There's been philosophical shifts. There's been technology issues that have played into this. It's not something we just decided to do yesterday. In fact, it dates back to 2020 when we first started talking about this. What were you all seeing in class that made you start thinking that a change was needed?
Yeah, you're right. Starting 2020. So that's been a little bit, right? So some things that we've been seeing is that there were so many different ways that teachers were grading student learning. So for example, if I have a student in a high school and they have 5 different teachers, that means they may have had 5 different ways that they were being graded. So they had to navigate 5 different ways of being graded every time they went into a class period. Each of those 5 teachers had different policies. So for turning in late work, for retaking tests, for being graded only on academic content, or academic content and other items like behavior, participation, homework, and so forth. So when we're thinking through all of these different ways that that students had to navigate, it was difficult for them to just kind of think through all of these things. And like, what teacher am I in right now? How do they grade? Am I allowed to take a retake? Am I not allowed to do that? And also some teachers, they were already doing a 4-point scale, and some were staying with a traditional 100-point scale. And so with a 100-point scale, if I bomb a test and I'm not able to retake it, and maybe homework was counted against me and I got a bunch of zeros for homework, or I wasn't participating and I was getting zeros for that. A student could try and calculate their overall grade and they'd say, there's not even a chance for me to even pass this, so why even try? That's the reason why we wanted to move to standards-based instruction and grading for all middle school and high school students.
So it definitely sounds like there's a huge equity piece here in that where everyone now is going to be on the same page in terms of what their expectations are going to be. But what I'm also getting is that this is like all-encompassing, really. This is not a small task. In fact, our school board has a procedure that covers grading. And what you all learned was that hadn't been updated since 2003. So to make the change, you involved a lot of folks around the district. Not only are the ideas behind grading changing, but you've also had to revamp the system teachers use to grade as part of this. So there was a tech piece to this too. Tell us about all the work that went into the task force, committees, expanding groups of teachers, piloting, all that.
Yes, as you mentioned, there are a lot of stakeholders involved in this work because they are important to be able to understand what this looks like, what are some barriers. We need to be able to go through how to anticipate what those barriers are and provide supports as needed. So starting in 2020, we created a guiding coalition that helped create an SBIG learning plan and then collect feedback from all staff for that learning plan. And then in 2021, we shared that we were going to be moving to standards-based instruction and grading, SBIG, and we created a task force. And that task force helped us plan and communicate what the plan would look like with all staff. And then with that task force, we created a SBIG guiding principles, and those guiding principles really drove everything that we have been doing. When we're thinking about 2022, we had 3 subcommittees. So there's really 3 buckets of work that had to happen with a bunch of people in these subcommittees. So we had one subcommittee for a report card and gradebook. We had another subcommittee for the academic rubric. And lastly, we had the 3rd subcommittee tied to success skills. And each of those subcommittees engaged in research, best practices, created drafts of whatever needed to be created, and then asked people for feedback to improve those drafts. And then in 2023, we had 47 amazing pilot teachers engage in some work with us. So we met monthly, and the pilot teachers, along with admin, were able to tell us what's working with the standards-based gradebook, what's working with the success skills, and what's working with the academic rubric, because we asked them to try all those things on for one class period. So every time they tried something, we would ask for their feedback, we would revise whatever needed to be revised, and then we would try it on again. And we learned a lot from that trial and error piece. The SBIG leadership team, we always use their feedback to think about the next monthly meeting so that we can understand how we can best support the pilot teachers and their students. And the feedback really from the pilot teachers and admin were the driving force of identifying we need to slow down a little bit and we need to have a 2-year implementation for SBIG. So this school year is our first year of implementation, and then the 25-26 school year would be our second year of implementation before we fully implement SBIG.
Wow, that is a lot of work, a lot of folks involved in making this happen. And the amazing thing is it started at the height of COVID. We were shut down, and your team was already looking at the future and figuring out how we can improve grading in the state. district. That is inspiring. Let's talk about those guiding principles you mentioned for standards-based instruction and grading: accurate, equitable, and motivation. How do these three things set the stage for student success?
So I'd like us to kind of picture the old way grading.
I'm looking at him right here.
Is that you, Connor?
That's me. A+, baby.
100%
Yeah.
A+. Okay, so when we're thinking about the old way, we're thinking about really a 100-point scale, right? So if you think about what that used to look like, it was 90 to 100% was an A, and then 80 to 89 was a B, and so forth, okay? So when we think through that, and I'm going to give this scenario again of a high school student, maybe I scored a 20% on a test, and I did not have an opportunity to retake a test. I chose not to do some homework. Or maybe I couldn't do homework, and maybe I was at home fighting with some parents about doing math, and I didn't want to fight anymore, and I just didn't turn any homework in. Maybe I was too tired because I was working a job that night, and there are some times when I'm just not doing my work and I'm not participating. So all of those things, if those were counted towards my grade, I was getting docked. I would get zeros. I couldn't make up for it. I couldn't do anything, which was part of my grade. So then, if that was the part of the grade in the scenario, I understood how to do the math to see if I score a certain way on a certain test or assignment or whatever it may be, and I'm seeing that I can't get out of this, I'm stuck, then I'm not going to try. I'm just going to give up. But on the other hand, if we think about the guiding principles of SBIG, we're thinking through the opportunity to retake. So if I score, let's go back to that scenario, 20%, I'm not happy with that score. So I can retake the test and do better. Even if I take the test and I do well on it and get, in this case, a 3 out of 4, as mentioned earlier, I can try for a 4 if I wanted to improve my learning. So anything that is tied to a particular grade, participation, being late, not doing homework, that's not going to impact my grade, because behaviors like participation, effort, and so forth are going to be tracked a different way through success skills. Because now the grade is only about content, then I can have a higher probability of passing the class because I have all these different opportunities to prove that I'm learning.
And it sounds like, from kind of the layperson's perspective, that where in the past a student's mistake of, they bombed a test because they weren't able to study, they forgot to do homework, was weighted a little too heavily, maybe a little hard for them to come back from, where now that's weighted more appropriately, where it's not going to be something that's insurmountable if they blow a test. Is that about right?
Yeah, so when we think about weighting, when we go into 100% standards-based instruction and grading, all scores will be weighted, if you will, 100%, because it's only going to be assessment. It could be summative, formative, whatever it may be. So that's going to be 100% of the grade. But the other things, like participation, behavior, being late, and so forth, aren't part of the actual grade itself. It's just a way to just track that. Are students engaging in school in a way that they should be to be able to be as successful as possible?
And parents aren't going to see a change to the report cards this year, but next year they will. What else will be changing in the next school year?
Yeah, the difference for report cards for next year is that they will include the standards and success skills. This year, grades will be an average score of all the scores that are entered into the grade book. Next year, each standard will be given a grade. Then the overall grade will be the average of the standard grades. And then this means that a student's grade will only be based on tests that they assess on the priority standards and nothing else.
Well, this is going to be great for our students moving forward, grading being accurate, equitable, and motivating students in new ways. I love that. If parents want to learn more, they can visit bethelsd.org, and under departments, they'll find teaching and learning.
And thank you, Lori, so much for coming in and explaining some of this stuff. It can be a little intimidating, I'm sure, but hearing from you sounds very easy to understand and intuitive, and I think it's going to work really well for our families. But before we let you go, if you've listened to the show, you know we like to have a little fun sometimes. And in honor of our 100th episode, I thought we'd do a little quiz where I'm going to ask you both. Now, Doug has not seen these. I hope not, unless he broke into my office and cheated, which I wouldn't put past him. But I'm gonna talk about some famous television shows.
Oh, gosh.
You're going to have to guess if they aired fewer or more than 100 episodes.
I love it.
Got it?
Let's go.
Winner gets a major award.
Oh. It's a little early for Christmas references, isn't it?
Okay, never too early for Christmas Story. Okay, so we're going to start with Gilligan's Island. More than 100 episodes, fewer than 100 episodes. Doug.
I'm going to go with fewer.
Okay.
I'm going to go with more.
All right.
Doug wins that one. 98 episodes. Very close.
98.
Though. Very,
Wow.
very close. 98 episodes.
I think I've seen them all.
Oh my
All right.
gosh.
Here's one I feel like we're all going to be in the right wheelhouse for this. Saved by the Bell. Lori?
Classic.
Okay, I remember watching this in high school. And it seemed like there were a lot.
Didn't it seem like it went forever?
Yes. So because of that, I'm going to say more.
Okay. And Doug, you're going to say...
Just to be contrary, I'll say fewer.
That's 2-0 for Doug.
Oh my
86.
gosh.
I don't think
86?
I don't think they're counting the college years or Miss Bliss, which is technically in the Saved by the Bell universe.
That was a. I thought that was
So
also
big
called
asterisk.
Saved by the Bell.
There was Miss Bliss before that.
How is that only 86
That's
episodes?
shocking.
And I don't know who researched this. We have interns. Their sole job, so they could be wrong. All right, moving on. We got Mork and Mindy. This is before all of our
Oh,
times.
Nanu, sir. I watch that in reruns all the time.
So what do you think? More than 100, fewer than 100?
I'll go fewer.
Okay. Lori?
I also was going to go fewer.
Okay.
you
Well,
can.
you were both correct. 95.
There we go.
Hey.
But close, very close.
So 3-1, I guess, if we're keeping score at home.
Yes.
Which I am, because this will be my crowning achievement today.
Yeah, because I'm only one.
All right. Here's a good one. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. More than 100 episodes, fewer than 100 episodes.
Is this the show that's the story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down?
It is. Indeed it is. That
I
is
may
the
have
one.
seen this one.
Okay.
I love this show.
All right. As a fan, Lori, more than 100 episodes?
I'm going to say more.
Okay. Doug?
I'll take less.
Big time more. 148
Oh,
episodes.
that's a lot of
Nice.
seasons.
That's 2 Aunt Vivs in there.
and one
and
amazing
only one Carlton.
dance.
I was
Yeah.
just going to say, can any of you do the Carlton dance?
You wouldn't want to see that. Dancing ability meant for radio. Okay, so last one. We're going to go That's So Raven, starring everyone's favorite
boy.
Cosby kid, Raven Simone. More than 100 episodes, fewer than 100 episodes. Lori?
Fewer.
Okay. Doug?
I've never seen this show. I'll go more.
Well, this was a bit of a trick because this one, 100 on the nose. So I guess no
wow.
credit for that one. And who remembers the score? I'm going to say Lori won this one.
I think that's fair.
Okay, but just as a little bonus, those were some very popular sitcoms, but we're not talking about the granddaddy of all long-running TV shows.
The longest running sitcom?
No, sir. We are talking game shows, talk shows, soap operas, the things that have been running for like 150 years. Before TV was invented, they were running.
Oh, can we guess?
Were they
Yes.
on radio?
So what is the longest running television show in terms of episodes, not of time, number of episodes,
Including game shows.
including game shows, talk shows, all that stuff. Longest
and soap operas.
and soap operas.
Oh, gosh.
Take that as a hint.
Two things come to mind for me. I have Price is Right,
I love Price is Right.
right? And General Hospital.
I will take. So I'm going to go with a soap opera, and I'll take the one who my favorite star has been, always will be, Joey Tribbiani.
Drake
as
Ramore?
Dr. Drake Ramore in The Days of Our Lives.
Oh, my gosh, that's right.
Those were all fantastic guesses, but they were all wrong.
Wrong.
Oh.
The winner is with 15,000 episodes and counting, I'm assuming.
Wheel of Fortune?
No, Guiding Light.
Oh.
Never seen a single episode.
We should maybe watch it. I guess it's popular.
It must be good. And thank you again to our very special guest, Lori Honig. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much. It was fun hanging out with you too. And I just want to do a shout out for everyone who's been supporting the SBIG work. All teachers, admin, students, families, everyone at the district level. We just appreciate the work and dedication you've been doing to support students to be as successful as possible in and out of school. And we couldn't do this work without you. You all are amazing. Thanks.
Hear, hear.
Indeed, that's going to do it for us today. Join us again next week for episode 101 of the Bethel School District Presents podcast. We'll see you then.